You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. All the way in Australia, in the land down under, my Soliman managed to stop one of my favorite up-and-comers, one of my favorite Aussie fighters, in young Jazzy Parr, forcing a 7th-round TKO stoppage after dropping her off a hard right hand she didn't recover from. Sensing that, my Soliman closed the distance, let her hands go, throwing punches and bunches, forcing a referee stoppage in what is being described as a comeback win. Comeback for my Soliman, who some said was down 5 rounds to 1 on the judges' scorecards going into the 7th. Sweet victory for my Soliman, and a bitter defeat for young Jazzy Parr. It's gotta sting to be well on your way to winning a fight and have it snatched from you like that. Post-fight, she posted on her social media that losing definitely sucks. I felt good in there until I didn't. So much to work on, but this is all part of the game. Congratulations to my opponent, my Soliman. Enjoy your win. You deserve it. I am grateful. I have the best team around me to pick me back up again. This isn't the end. Thank you to all my supporters. Until next time. Jazzy is young enough that she can recover from this devastating loss. Remember that she is only 22 years old after all, with her whole career ahead of her. Crushing defeat, humbling. I still think she's a great fighter. As strange as this might sound, even though she lost to my Soliman, I still think she's more talented than my Soliman. I think she's a better physical specimen. She just got caught with a good one and did not recover. How are those not excuses? How do I reconcile Jazzy being more talented than Mai if Mai just beat her? Jazzy's got to tighten up. That's what it is. Jazzy's used to having things her way, and she's used to beating up on girls, and the moment she encountered one that can do some fighting back, some beating up of her own, she got caught and really didn't know how to handle it. She is only 22 years old after all, whereas my Soliman is a bit more mature at 27, now advancing to a professional record of 10 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 6 knockouts. 5 out of the 6 were in my Soliman's last 6 fights. Currently, she stopped 4 opponents in a row. I want to see a rematch. Perhaps not an immediate rematch, but a rematch maybe year and a half from now, because Jazzy was up on the cards at the time of the stoppage, because I think that Jazzy can come back better. I want to see a rematch. I want Jasmine to get her revenge, even if it's not immediate. It's something that can be revisited in the Aussie boxing scene. If Anthony Mundine and Danny Green can have 2 fights amongst themselves, I don't see why these two can't. I want to see a rematch. So this fight between Jasmine and Mai was for an IBF international title in the women's super flyweight division, where Mexico's own Irma Garcia still reigns as IBF champion. For some weeks now, Irma was rumored to be facing WBC champion Ashley Gonzalez in what was supposed to be a unification match, but that didn't happen. I'm not even sure that Ashley is still WBC champion, it being that the upcoming Adelaida Ruiz versus Alexis Kubicki fight is supposed to be for the WBC title, where Irma Garcia, the IBF champion, does not seem otherwise preoccupied. My Soliman has taken another step in that direction. Now, Irma is a lot more experienced than my Soliman. Many more fights, many more rounds in the bank, but she is also many years older than my Soliman. She's in her early 40s, whereas Mai is in her late 20s. So time is on my Soliman's side. It's a fight I could see them bringing to the land down under, to Australia, because Irma Garcia, in spite of being the champion, she's not with a major promotional outfit. There's not much money behind her. I think there's more money behind
my Soliman.
Congratulations to her. I wasn't completely sure what was going to happen between Jasmine and Mai. Seemed like a coming-of-age fight, a step-up fight for both, and Mai came out on top. Coming one step closer to challenging for a full alphabet title, we'll see if she's ready to win one when the time comes. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, last night in Fort Worth, Texas, Virgil Ortiz lived up to and in some ways exceeded expectations, stopping Erickson Lubricant, who he was widely favored to beat in the second round. Started the fight in the very first round. Virgil Ortiz stepping into his punches, getting on the front foot. Erickson Lubin backpedaling, circling away. And whatever punches got in for Virgil had an immediate effect on Erickson Lubin. I think that he felt the power early and didn't want any parts of it. You could smell trouble was in the waters at the very start of this thing, so that going into the second, Virgil puts more pressure on Erickson Lubin, lets his hands go even more, pins him down on the ropes, unloads, gets in with a chopping right around the side of Erickson Lubin's guard.
Nails it.
You could see the right hand hurt Erickson Lubin. You could see that he was out on his feet, taking punches, taking punishment. It was a good stoppage. I thought the contest would go a bit longer, more akin to what we saw in Lubin versus Ramos. I thought this one would go the distance, and I thought that Virgil would win a decision. He went a step further and stopped him in the first half in the second round.
Good on him.
Good advertisement for Virgil's power that I was beginning to question, it being that of the 4 fights he's had as a junior middleweight, the 2 actual junior middleweights that he fought, he didn't stop them. He didn't knock them out. Sergey Boachuk, Israel Madrimov.
You know, the first 2 guys weren't actual junior middleweights, and those were tune-up fights. Understandable. But the last 2, the bona fide junior middleweights that he fought, he didn't knock them out. So that when he knocks out Lubin, I think that's a very good advertisement for Virgil's power, his marketability as a strong finisher, a strong puncher. Very good.
Though let's not get ahead of ourselves. Erickson Lubin now is a fighter who's been knocked out 3 times. Every single time that he's lost, it's been by way of knockout. So some bit of it is that Virgil is a hard puncher, and some bit of it is that Erickson Lubin doesn't take a good punch.
This guy can never just lose a fight to lose a fight. No, he's got to get battered. He's got to get splattered. He's got to get put out.
I saw veteran content creator Najee say that people keep dismissing Lubin's loss to not having a chin. I disagree. He's only been unable to continue from Charlo, not to mention Virgil has an over 90% knockout ratio. He stops virtually everybody. Lubin stayed on the ropes and paid the price. It ain't chinny.
Bullshit.
No, Virgil doesn't stop practically everybody. He didn't stop Sergey Boachuk, who had been stopped before, and he didn't stop Israel Madrimov. He stopped Lubin because Lubin is chinny, chinnier than they are, and you're only defending him because you said he had a good shot at winning. No, he didn't.
And he didn't because he's chinny. Now, I remember years ago when Jermel Charlo stopped this guy in the first few seconds of the first round. That was in, 2017? Erickson Lubin has been in the junior middleweight division for a very long time, and perhaps you wonder if it hasn't been too long that after that loss, what he should have done was moved up.
Why?
One of the telltale signs of a fighter who's perhaps been at a weight too long is that their punch resistance starts to go. Any solid shot that gets in, they're ready to go out. They're ready to go down, and if you notice, when Erickson Lubin loses, he doesn't just lose, he gets battered, he gets splattered, he gets mangled like he did yesterday in the second round.
Thus, coming back to the center, even if I myself expected yesterday's contest to go the distance, I have to remember Lubin's been stopped before. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and jump off a cliff that Virgil Ortiz beat a guy that everybody favored him to beat, myself included.
Oh, the method may be what's different, but there's no surprises here. That Virgil beat Lubin, that's what everybody thought would happen. Stars came out for this one. In attendance was Teofimo Lopez, former unified champion Errol Spence Jr., former undisputed champion Jermel Charlo, Boots Ennis.
Eddie Hearn alongside him for obvious reasons. Calling the action was undisputed super featherweight champion Alicia Baumgartner.
Back on DAZN, I see.
Well, after the cancellation of what was supposed to be the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight for later this month, she can scrape up some extra money calling the action, being a commentator. Very smart on her part.
Because she was supposed to fight on that undercard.
Virgil did good for himself, knocking that guy out, but as stated, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's a fight that he was widely favored to win, and by now the expectation still is that Virgil should be fighting for a title.
By now he should.
That Virgil should be fighting better people. As Xander Zayas, a fighter who is several years younger than Virgil, is now coming up on his second world title fight, a unification match with the Boss Baru for late January next year. It was Ringside Fracas who said, Boots and Ortiz can keep messing around with negotiations. Meanwhile, Zayas is coming in and stealing the chain at 154, looking to become a unified champion at 23.
And what's Virgil Ortiz? 27? 27 going on 28? Why does he say that Boots and Ortiz can keep messing around with negotiations?
Because of what's posted to Rick Merrigan's Instagram page. Rick Merrigan, who manages the career of Virgil Ortiz. Rick Merrigan, who said, I think Ortiz versus Spence at Cowboy Stadium, biggest all-Texas matchup in history, and Charlo versus Boots as the co-main, and the winners fight each other, just might be fire. Makes sense? Charlo and Boots both turned Ortiz down.
He's still hanging his hat on that. He's still using that as a shield for Virgil Ortiz to not fight Boots Ennis next, which is what I told you all along. As much as people might want this fight, and even if Boots was ringside yesterday, I don't think it's going to happen next.
Neither does Hassan Wells of New Mexico, who stated, Oscar De La Hoya said that if Virgil Ortiz is not the A-side in the fight with Boots, it will not happen, and they will look at either Errol Spence Jr. or Sebastian Fundora.
What did I tell you? What the fuck did I tell you?
Veteran boxing scribe Jake Donovan said Oscar De La Hoya has now twice claimed Golden Boy holds the upper hand in talks for Ortiz versus Ennis. First, during the in-ring post-fight interview, and now during post-fight press conference. Not the nonsense that we need. Just make the fight, especially after tonight's buzz. I'm sorry, Jake, but boxing doesn't really work like that. Not in the United States. Fights don't happen in a timely fashion, and I don't think this one is about to. I never did. Anybody who's been keeping up with this channel in the build-up of this weekend's fight will have heard me say more than once, Boots versus Ortiz will not be next. Oscar will find a way to fuck it up.
Whether it's faking an injury, or in this instance, preemptively sabotaging negotiations by taking a hard-line stance, there is nothing that indicates Virgil is the A-side over Boots Ennis.
Nada.
Oscar shamelessly does this with his fighters and often gets away with it. This is his way of putting distance between Virgil in that fight, but why would he want to do that if Virgil is so capable?
If Virgil is so capable of winning this fight, why is everybody on his side acting so squirrely about this fight? And why do they presume to be the A-side in negotiations when all week what I've heard is that they were struggling to sell tickets?
Boots Ennis didn't struggle to sell tickets the 2 and 3 times that Matchroom brought him to Philly.
But Virgil was struggling to sell tickets in his native Texas. So what makes Virgil the A-side over Boots, the A-side over anybody? This is how they sabotaged the Xander Zayas fight. With Xander, who had already become a world champion, they were demanding half. With Boots, they're claiming to be the A-side. And what did I tell you in the build-up? I don't think they want the Boots fight, at least not right now. They would sooner look at a Sebastian Fundora fight or a Spence fight, as shameless as that is, if they can. Errol Spence Jr., who hasn't fought in 2 years, still coming off a loss to Terrence Crawford, still hasn't hired a new trainer. He was in attendance yesterday. They likely invited him.
They've been shamelessly angling for a fight with Errol Spence Jr. in the subsequent 2 years that followed his crushing defeat to Terrence Crawford. And I don't know why more people in the media aren't criticizing them for it. How could you want to fight Errol Spence?
You gotta be fucking joking. What are you looking at that guy for?
That's why I don't read too much into Virgil's highlight reel knockout of Lubin. That was still just a fight that he was widely favored to win. He beat a guy everybody thought he could beat, myself included. And now they want more of that with Errol Spence Jr. Why the fuck else would they be looking at a guy who ain't fought in 2 years and is coming off a knockout loss?
It's a fucking cherry pick, man. That is all that is. That is a cherry pick.
They're hoping people get overly excited. Those slaves to the moment might gravitate towards Virgil Ortiz because he just stopped Lubin like Lubin ain't been stopped before. Lubin was a cherry pick, and Errol Spence Jr. would be a cherry pick. That's just the reality.
Do you think they get him? Do you think they can get Errol Spence Jr. in the ring?
Not really. Just because he was in attendance and just because he was there doesn't mean the fight materializes. I mean, Errol was at Sebastian Fundora's fight when he beat Tim Tszyu, and they didn't end up fighting. I don't actually expect Errol to fight somebody like Virgil off of 2 years of inactivity, breaking in a new trainer, coming off a loss. Of course, Golden Boy wants that, but I don't think Errol's stupid.
The Fundora fight, which they also mention, is a lot more realistic. Sebastian is the full champion, and Virgil is the interim champion. This is a fight they could put together with some help from the World Boxing Council.
Would that be a cherry pick?
Not exactly. But for Golden Boy Promotions, they do look at it as the lesser of two evils. They won't say it, but they identify the Boots fight as a more dangerous fight than the Fundora fight, and that's why they would prefer that one. Though overall, fighting Sebastian Fundora is what the doctor ordered. I actually wouldn't mind if Virgil fought him next.
Remember what I told you? I never thought the Boots fight was gonna be the next fight. So when that's not the fight, I'm not disappointed because I wasn't excited in the first place.
Wasn't expecting that to happen anyway. But if they can get Sebastian Fundora in the ring and take his WBC title from him, I'm okay with that. I'll take that.
Is this a duck?
Kind of. They're making it very obvious that they do not want to put together the Boots Ennis fight. Everybody on Virgil's side. Virgil's trainer, Virgil's father, Virgil's manager, Virgil's promoter. They're making it very obvious they do not want that fight. But if they fight Sebastian Fundora instead, I'll take it.
I remember a few months ago the story was that Golden Boy Promotions would be doing a lot more business with the PBC and their fighters moving forward. A few months later, you're talking about Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios, PBC guy.
Erickson Lubin used to be a PBC guy, Virgil just fought him, and now they're looking at two more PBC guys for Virgil. Either Errol Spence Jr. or Sebastian Fundora.
Is it my imagination or is that poetic justice for Oscar de la Hoya? The formation of the PBC involved backdooring Oscar and funneling 150 to 200 fighters from Golden Boy over to what became the PBC. Now fast forward, the PBC is in shambles. They have barely any money, barely any fight dates, and what fighters remain are now being used to build up one of Oscar's fighters, to build up Virgil Ortiz. Some might look at that and call it poetic justice.
I look at that and see they're ducking boots. They're ducking boots, and they're using PBC fighters to do it. It's not that I'm enamored with Boots either, or that I'm the biggest Boots Ennis fan. I'm just calling a spade a spade. I told you before the fight, they're not gonna fight him next. They're gonna find a way out. Now tell me I'm wrong.
I've been critical of Boots in the past, like I'm critical of Virgil Ortiz now. I'm not high on either of these fighters. I ain't sweet on either of them. I'm just looking at the situation for what it is, and they are avoiding Boots. You can make of that what you will.
But that's what I told you would happen.